So this piece is called Tout, monde, lointain, a completely different world far apart. And actually, when I was driving here to Tucson, I felt, I've been in the United States quite a few times, but I really felt I'm entering a completely different world far apart. I went to the state park. I saw a lot of cacti. I'm not used to this kind of heat, and it's a very specific kind of architecture. And today, when I returned my rental car, someone asked me to please not forget my gun. So, coming from Germany, that was quite a surprise. So, without judging anything, I felt it's so interesting that a place that you think you know actually can have elements where you feel you're in a completely different environment. And that's how I feel about the Dutilleux Concerto. The Dutilleux Concerto has elements that are very connected to the typical French school of writing. He begins where Debussy was ending. But then again, you get elements that are completely foreign and they're completely mystical. And his first movement, called Enigma, is really a kind of riddle. Is really unsolved. And I love pieces of art and pieces of music, especially that don't necessarily come with answers, but they come with questions for the audience.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good example that Dutilleux somehow carries on the tradition of Impressionism, if you want to say French Impressionism, but takes it to a little bit more extreme. Not only with the sounds, but perhaps with the imagination. And I think that's probably the extraterrestrial part of it. It takes you out of this world. Comparing it to Tucson, definitely this is something that you would imagine why there is even life in the desert, but there is when you look inside and you discover all the layers, and then there's life to the minimum, to the microorganisms. Perhaps that's the enigma, and that's why it ends with a hymn of celebration of this world and this universe somehow.
Of course, every collaboration is different, but I feel that the cello, as it starts kind of alone, just with a little bit of percussion, is in a way an anchor that sort of introduces the whole thing. And then as the piece progresses, the cello becomes more and more a piece of the fabric of the orchestra. So in a way, it sort of integrates more and more. And if we think about the collaborative aspect, of course, in the beginning, as a cellist, I'm kind of free. But then I really become part of the orchestra, especially as the first movement gets going. It's very complex. It really is like musical Lego that needs to really fit into each other like a Swiss clockwork. And so there is no room in a way, and also no justification to do this sort of romantic, soloistic behavior that the soloist can do whatever she or he wants, and then everybody's supposed to follow. No, but you're part of a larger universe. And I like that idea very much, that the cello is actually an integral part and yes, has a leading function, but still needs to integrate.
Yeah, definitely. It's not the typical case of solo accompaniment, right? And I think your description is perfect for that matter, because although you begin alone, then you insert yourself in this big world of sound. And it's it's really interesting, especially in the first moment. He calls variations, obviously, because there is a clear, pattern that is the centerpiece of something else that is evolving in different angles, and those variations are always led by a motive that comes from the cello, but not necessarily. Then it just switches around between the other instruments. It's a very good piece for any student that wants to study orchestration, because it is incredible, and that comes from perhaps the French tradition of Ravel, in a way, but it is incredibly demanding also in terms of the collaboration for the balances as well, because you still want to have the cello. Still, the cello has many moments of protagonism, and sometimes the orchestration itself is really rich. So it's a little bit of not only the Lego part of it, but also how to to present all those layers and try to make space for this the cello to come out when it's needed.
Mm. Well, on that subject, what I find interesting is, of course, the colors and sort of the sustained notes were composed with a French orchestra in mind, right? And there's a very specific sound that you get in France that is quite hard for any European orchestra or any American orchestra, for that matter, to replicate. And I feel maybe the sort of Central European playing when you think of Germany, or when you think of also the tradition that then was taken over to the United States, it is very concrete, it's very clear, it's very, very, very crispy, it is very outspoken. And I feel a lot of this music demands for sort of not quite knowing when the sound starts and when it ends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very watercolor often, yeah, and not so much concrete oil color. And this kind of coloration, I think, is something that is probably the biggest challenge when I feel that when an orchestra is starting with this kind of music, to understand that a triple pianissimo really is not having a start, but it's really coming from nothing. And so it's more a change of the mindset than I think the ability to play, because nowadays orchestras, and especially the orchestra here in Tucson, I mean, the abilities are fabulous, right? And so 50 years ago, when this piece was written, it was still impossible for a lot of orchestras to play such music. And now it's just a matter of getting the character rather than just getting the notes.
Well, absolutely. Well, first of all, when the idea of doing any piece of Dutilleux for me, it's on the table, I don't say no. Because, I mean, it's already a piece established in the repertoire for cellists and for orchestras around the world. But not always it's easy to find opportunities to do it, not only because of the soloists that could bring it, but also, there is a perception of certain languages, especially the language of Dutilleux, that could be understood as something a little bit more complicated to understand. And once you listen to it, then you're like, okay, this is incredible music. I mean, wasn't I approached to it before? So for our audiences, which are very avid to listen to new music and to listen to things that this orchestra has had a great repertoire through the years, but Dutilleux has been always a little bit, kind of an assignment not yet done. So my intention, not only with the music of Dutilleux, but also many other composers, is to bring those experiences to the audience and to the orchestra as well, because many musicians have played some Dutilleux. We actually had a chamber concert in which one of our cellists played his piece for cello solo, and it's an opportunity to get some kind of familiar with this, not only with the name itself, but also with the music that he represents. So it was a great pair, and also together with the other pieces. I mean, there is a lot of orchestration related pieces in this program. Valerie Coleman's Omoya is a great piece that came from a wind quintet form to a full orchestra, so that requires orchestration. And then you have Respighi, who was, at the same time like Ravel, they studied from the great Korsakov, school of orchestration, and he's a great storyteller with the use of the combination of instruments like Ravel did. And I think it lands very well in this kind of imaginative worlds, living in something that the sounds are taking you back to Rome, by the perception of the landscape of Rome through the pines, as if the pines have the observance of this beauty, and they're telling you the story with sounds. Dutilleux's concerto is a little bit of that intergalactic, interuniversal perception of the world and the universe itself, the universe of sounds. So I think it lands very well in this whole program, and we are excited to bring it to Tucson for the first time, basically. And it's a great opportunity to do it with you too, because you're a great performer of this concerto, many other concertos, but it's this concerto too. So it's really exciting.